Because I'm a big cinemaphile, I always have thoughts and theories on um, movies, today and movies of the past, and how each generation would fare in the other's generation. I hear a lot of, or rather, I see a lot online of people saying, "What happened to films? What happened to movies? They don't feel like they used to. They're not like they used to be." Um, so, I agree with them. The films are not like they used to be. Films don't feel like they used to. And I think there's a couple of things that we have to look at as to why these films aren't being produced. Well, for one, we don't absorb films the way that we used to. The ones that ask why aren't films made the way that they were have a nostalgia gene in them. They came from that era, so they understand what cinema was like before, as far as narrative, as far as presentation. But in this new world that's content driven, all of those things that made cinema wonderful for those that remember it as it was are now things that we would call boring. Um, we ask for more plot development, but we don't have the patience for plot development. And slow burn movies, especially in the genre of horror, were not considered slow burn back in the days. We want things that we are no longer built for. And this is why Hollywood doesn't produce those films that we claim to want. And here's my evidence of it. When we get one of those films, we don't support it, even after asking for it. We will immediately go, we will immediately watch Marvel. And there's nothing wrong with Marvel. There's nothing wrong with the basic superhero movie, the action movie, but the tropes are now the norm. And nobody is really trying to subvert expectations. And when they try, they subvert expectation with the subversion that we were all expecting. So in that way, it's kind of it's kind of strange that we try to make something different with something that people expect. And we've gotten used to certain ingredients being there, so used to it that when they're not there, we're angry without even asking, did the omission of this particular device hurt the film or help the film? We just expect it. It's sort of like consuming food, and that's what content is like. It's like, you're eating and you're expecting something to taste like a burger, and when it doesn't, you're disappointed, even if it tastes good. Because when you buy a burger, you want a burger. When you immerse yourself in content, you want content. I was speaking with a coworker, and she said, talking about Tubi films, she can't even remember the name of, because she was talking about binge watching. I said, if I go on vacation, I don't plan to do anything. I'm just going to watch TV. I'm going to veg out. And that's when she started talking about, what she liked to do. She talked about, on her days off or when she doesn't have grandkids, she likes to watch Tubi, particularly the black indie films. And when she watches them, she can't remember the names of them because they just stream, and she just watches and she watches and has a glass of wine and relaxes. But the fact that you can't remember the name of a movie that you're watching means that you're absorbing content differently than you absorbed the films of the past. There will never be another Godfather. Godfather is something from a bygone era. Instead, we have a different type of film. The Godfather was a gangster film, but it was more than just a gangster film. With content, when you have a gangster film, you have a gangster film. And character development isn't prerequisite. You have a general plot, and you have a warring factions, and that's about it. You don't have any depth of character, and we're not asking for it. But at the same time, we know that there is a human element that's missing. There's something missing, and we can't put our finger on it. And that's the consequence of choosing content um, over cinema. You want it to be a certain way. It's almost like the fast fashion of film. There's something missing. It's just like that sweater that I bought from one of the fast fashion outlets, where you put it on and it's supposed to be cotton, but it's not actually cotton. There's something else going on that is strange. Or if it's supposed to be linen, but it's not quite linen. There's this plasticky thing going on. And again, you can't put your finger on it. But you become so used to the convenience of it that you don't question what's being given to you. You don't question the manufacturer. You simply wear it until it falls apart. Well, with content, you simply watch it until it becomes a droning noise, and maybe you get hungry and decide to do something else. It occupies a space of time. A film like The Godfather was meant to be absorbed differently. It's not just to occupy a space of time. I think the younger generation today would be very confused watching The Godfather. Some of the most violent scenes and significant scenes in the film were so quiet and nuanced, you didn't know that an act of violence was in the making. The the Brazzini scene, when the concierge Tom told his friend that he couldn't get him off the hook. Nobody even realized, with some of the younger people I know, they don't even, that said, yeah, I saw the Godfather, but they didn't experience it. They had no idea that a man was being sent to his death because of the level of civility and the finality of what that man now realized. And Don Corleone was um, or Michael Corleone was going to have that man killed. Today, the violence has to be overt. It has to be overt. It has to be announced. It has to be told that this is the elephant in the room. Nobody recognizes the elephant in the room. Nobody understands nuance. So everything is heavy handed. Instead of saying things like, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse, the average person today would be like, wow, he's going to make a nice business deal. Today, we have to say, I'm going to unalive that man. I'm going to unalive that person. And I'm going to unalive him with this gun, with this knife, with this machete, with poison. We have to make it abundantly clear. And the consequence of that is that there is no mystery to film. So it becomes content. It becomes layman's visual watching. Hidden meanings are almost a detriment to today's cinema. So this observation that I have means that that ingredient that we're missing, one or two things will happen. We will either get used to the taste of cinema now, if you can call, well, or content now, or we will have enough of the nostalgia to create a counter voice to content. And perhaps, there's a third option. Both will simply exist, and those who understand, uh, cinema as a storytelling device that welcomes subversion and nuance, that audience will exist in one place, and the content audience will exist in another place. My prediction is that cinema will endure. And just as certain songs from certain eras make their way into other eras, I believe that content will do the opposite and do what that music that wasn't necessarily timeless did. It was completely forgotten, and it was lumped into a genre that was completely discarded. There was an era of music where it was all beach music, and nobody remembers anybody except the Beach Boys. They were the only ones that survived that. I believe that content has some significant personalities in it that will be remembered. But overall, if the if the the quality of music or a film changes, it'll simply be forgotten. That depends on how we evolve as moviegoers or devolve as moviegoers. I'd love to know what you think. This is your guy, the Brave Artist, asking you to share, like, or subscribe. And until the next time, take care.